Hello, everyone. Billy from Dungeon Manager here. Now, unfortunately, we've had to cut this series a little bit short, so this will be the last episode. But don't you worry, as soon as we're up to no good again, we will let you know, and you'll be back to watching us having adventures in no time. In the meantime, let's get to the episode, and I hope you have a great time.
Wherever you are and whenever you are, we hope that you are not as warm as we are. Happy Sunday, everyone.
Happy Sunday, everyone.
Happy Sunday.
Hello, colleagues. Welcome to the office and to another and our penultimate episode of this season of Dungeon Manager. Hello to everyone in the Twitch chat. Do feel free to sound off. We'd love to get to know you, new and old alike. That made it sound like I was talking about everyone's ages. If you're old or young, never mind. I'm very warm. Before we begin, a couple of thanks, as ever, to our assistant dungeon managers on Patreon, the wonderful Graham Muir, the incredible Rory O'Sullivan, the fantastic Hannah Congrave, and a new assistant dungeon manager in the wonderful form of Reese Lawton. Thank you so much. I love Reese so much, and yeah, if you're watching, Reese, let's meet soon. I love you.
Reese, this isn't just a random person.
No. Well, it's sort of marginal. We've created art together, and by art I mean bad recreations of Titanic and stuff like that. But
I just wondered if that was like a greeting that you gave to every new.
Yeah, I love you, and I want to meet you.
Yeah.
I love you. Give me your address.
But if you would like to support us further, and if you would like me to threaten visitation upon your person, you can check out our Patreon. Every little helps, and that can be found in the chat and the description below. We are also, as ever, affiliated with Zavi. Zavi have an incredible line of D&D related merchandise and clothing. You can find it all on the link that we're putting in the chat, or alternatively, again, in the description of the YouTube video, if you're watching that way. But we have very specific, though also very generic codes in the form of Dungeon 10, which will get you 10% off site-wide, and Dungeon 20, which will give you 20% off all D&D related clothing. They have a fantastic range. Do go check them out. And if you want to follow us on other forms of social media, you can do so. You can do so on Twitter. You can do so on Facebook, Instagram. All of our old episodes are also available on YouTube, including every episode that we filmed of our campaign, as well as one-shots and a couple of smaller campaigns. And we also have another campaign coming up that we are very, very excited to announce, but we'll save that till next week. And if podcasting is more your scene, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and you can find us on Podbean. And I believe that's it. So join us as we step out of the office, away from work, and once more into the world of Dungeon Manager. Previously on Dungeon Manager, approached by the gnomish artificer by the name of Effie. She had asked for your help in rescuing a friend of hers, an inventor called Eric. Once in the employ of a man called Lord Harwood, a noble living in the Black Lake district of Neverwinter, he was currently on loan to Lady Esther Stormlock, kept prisoner in a warehouse near the city's air docks and placed in charge of creating a weapon of war: steam tanks. And as you made your preparations to infiltrate the warehouse and rescue him, Effie approached you, Terra, and asked if what she had seen was true. Whether the silver token you had placed in Phileas Fleckelmeister's place of work meant you were a member of the Guiding Hand. advising her to keep quiet. You brushed over this as quickly as you could. And heading towards the warehouse under cover of night, while Scarlett and Effie tried to distract the guards at the door, Terra and Zini, you snuck in, eventually finding your way to the small office in which Eric was kept, guarded by a strange golden mechanical creature. But as Oriana and Dalifar, you did your best to cover up the less than subtle attempts at sneaking you were making. Inside, Zini, you tried to see whether the clockwork guard would respond to touch. And it did. As the guards were quickly alerted to your presence and you fought to get Eric to safety, all quickly descended into chaos, albeit contained chaos within the warehouse. As Oriana, you smashed through the windows above, and Dalifar joined the fray, and fighting off guards, and in Oriana's case, one of the steam tanks itself, you managed to escape with both Eric and Effie in tow. And arriving back in the main city of Neverwinter, Eric shared with you everything he knew. The tanks were due to send north in a few days, for an army is gathering at the city of Kometstadt, though for what purpose, he doesn't know. All he does know is that the tanks only comprise a small part of this military force. But for now, he's just glad to be escaping the clutches of Lord Harwood. The noble had him in his employ for some time, building a doorway underneath his manor house. But what this doorway was for, or where it led, he couldn't remember. And so answering one final question from Scarlett, whether Lord Harwood had found a new chef, Eric and Effie thanked you all. And as Terra slipped them both a silver token, unnoticed by everyone save for you, Zini, the two gnomes rode off into the night and away from Neverwinter to begin a new future in Luskan. And so as they ride away, and you are left alone in the streets of Neverwinter near the Fallen Tower Tavern, the moon hanging overhead, what would you all like to do?
I would very quickly like to sort of indicate with a big sigh going, I think that's enough excitement for one day. And just sort of say, shall we get some rest? Because I, quite frankly, at this point, need it.
Yep. Me too.
Yeah, sorry, I touched the thing and it attacked and then the guards attacked and it's my fault, I'm sorry.
It went out rather well.
Well, it worked, but a lot of us are bleeding, so...
Yeah,
it's pretty usual, really, actually, let's be honest.
And as Zini says that, Dalfa just looks at him and said, "We are bleeding?"
I remove my talon from my belly and go, "Yes, we are bleeding."
Yeah. First time for everything, I suppose. Or is it the second time? I've not been keeping count.
Sarah looks healthier than she did before the fight.
Filled with invigoration.
Ariana looks buzzed from all the bloodshed.
It's vibrating.
Yeah, literally vibrating. Her eyes are wide. You know, like when a cat goes into hunting mode. That's what her eyes
I
are.
feel like me and you should take some levels in Barbarian.
Is blood Oriana's catnip? Is this what we've discovered?
I think it's what we've inadvertently discovered after traveling with her for quite some time.
So yes, sleep would be good.
So as you head towards the Fallen Tower Tavern, walking towards it, and your mounts hitched, and Rodigan once again moving over towards the hay by the side of the tavern and just stooping and eating. As you head towards the front door, Terra, you notice that just off in the distance, sat atop one of the buildings nearby, across the street, against the darkness of the sky, a white raven sits there, just watching.
I'll catch up with you all later. And I'll just walk off in that direction.
So,
I was going to say Dalfar pauses for just a moment and then continues.
okay. So, the rest of you, heading on in, are you going straight to bed? And if so, are you doing anything before you go to sleep?
I'll just go straight up to bed, but I'll pray before I go to sleep.
Okay. Sharing your room as you do, Oriana, with Terra in this particular establishment, you have the room to yourself for a little bit of time as you sit there and you murmur to yourself. And the rest of you, are you doing anything before you go to sleep? Okay.
No.
I think Scarlett's slightly miffed. She's been replaced, but it's fine. Everyone can talk it over in the morning. It's fine. She's gonna try. She's like gonna lay down in bed, but do that thing where you like toss every like 2 seconds. Just like
Puffing.
yeah.
Juliet, like, sort of at the end of your bed, just curls up, and every so often as she starts to settle. And Zini, you notice this from across the room. Every time Juliet starts to settle on the end of the bed, there is another. And Juliet just settles again. And this happens a couple of times before. But
It gets to the point where every sigh I open my eyes again and just think about saying something and then don't.
Nice. I love the passive aggressive.
meanwhile, outside Terra, you head towards the building. It is a simple shop, but as you approach, the raven just flies down with a and lands on the ground in front of you. Its feet leaving small indentations in the snow beneath its feet.
I will crouch down and see, first of all, if it's holding anything.
It is not.
So then I will, I'll stand up and go and sit somewhere or lean somewhere and compose a little note. And the note will say, let me just double check for something else I need to write. So the main thing in the note is saying there are steam tanks in the warehouse that we went to. And then I'll say that they have a weak point, which is the engines. And that would, they would explode if the weak point is targeted. And I will kind of just say, they are there. And I'll explain kind of that they're part of an army that's going to, you know where it's going to? Yes.
Kommetsstadt.
Yes.
I would really like it if Terra sent like a drawing of one with like a stick figure of a guy.
I think I probably would, because it's a lot quicker. Yeah. I will do that.
A diagram of a guard pointing at the engine going,
Yeah.
That's exactly what I do.
excellent.
And then like a picture of Kommetsstadt in the distance, and then like an arrow pointing at it. But I don't know what Kommetsstadt looks like, so it's just like.
Make a performance check. That seems the closest to drawing.
No, it's just that they're on their way to a city, essentially.
Right, I'll write Kommetsstadt, but like spelled however I think it's spelled. I have a +3 to performance, so 14.
It's fairly impressive and fairly accurate as well. The outline of the steam tank is clear, and the sort of pointing towards its weak spot.
Yeah,
Concise.
I'll annotate it,
Okay. But
steam
yeah,
tank.
it's a remarkably clear
Engine.
visual message.
I think that's it. I think I will also mention the Gunpowder Brigade and General Mannering von Tuffman.
Mm-hmm.
Who came to see the tanks. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else I'm missing. Yes, that's it. And then I'll send out.
Okay, so tying it around the foot of this creature, it just looks up at you and then with a just flies off into the distance, up above the spires and roofs of Neverwinter, before disappearing into the night.
And then I'll go inside and go to bed.
Okay. So, heading on in, you see Oriana just finishing up as she rises from the floor and from her knees and starts to get ready for bed. And unless there's anything either of you want to do, you head to sleep.
Which room was I in? I think it was in the first one with Terra.
Yeah, I think the three of you were sharing a room.
I remember sharing.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, you head to sleep. And for all of you, especially after the very, very stressful evening you've had, sleep comes easily to all of you. Your wounds rest up. Your reserves of energy, magical and otherwise, slowly fill back up. And for you, Oriana, snow falls upon your face, melting upon your purple skin.
Give me that sweet snow.
Opening your eyes, your white hair flying all about you, you find yourself on a familiar mountaintop. The sky above you is devoid of stars. It is pitch black, illuminated only by the occasional bolt of sickly, pallid lightning. And all around you, jagged rock springs up and waves of snow fly in heavy winds around you. And standing ahead of you, once more you see the black, barked tree, its roots digging into the ground, and blossom leaves made of flesh hanging from its branches. And next to it, a little way off, the stone stairs you have seen before, covered in snow and simple, bloodied footprints. You stand, and the wind howls about you. Is there anything you'd like to do?
I let out a great sigh and I run up the stairs.
So heading up the stairs, you notice that there are shards of mirrored glass and cracked bone littering the steps. And every time you pass these reflective shards of glass, moving ever up and up the stairs, you catch very brief glimpses of your reflection. Your true reflection looking back at you. And eventually you come to the mountain's peak. Wide open and bracing cold, a mountain range stretches to either side of you, the wind and snow raging around, and as far as you can see, dark clouds whisper across the horizon. And beneath your feet, you see once more the stone slab, its concentric circles moving ever inward, and its infernal writing proclaiming the words that you know now only too well. Outwards in, he claims the world. Their souls entrapped, our net unfurled. Inwards out, he splits the earth, our clay to mold Faerun's stillbirth, burning all in ice and fire. Unveiled the trident, bitter, dire. And from this place of blood and bone, the world shall cry, thy will be done. And in amongst these carvings you see blood. Fresh blood, and as you catch a glimpse of your bandaged wrists slowly growing red, you realize it is your blood. And lightning flashes above your head once more, and as it does so, you start to make out shapes in the sky above you, hidden amongst the clouds, but moving quickly and rapidly.
So where am I at the top of the stairs now?
You're at the top of the stairs and at the top of the mountain.
Is the tree there?
The tree is at the bottom of the steps. Here you see only the large acrid landscape ahead of you.
Is there anything that catches my attention?
Make a perception check.
Ooh, it's the first roll. Exciting. Can't remember what my perception modifier is. Oh no, gotta open up my thingy. Dooba-dooba-doo. Oh, it doesn't even matter, it's a natural one.
You look around, and there is a burst of lightning that blinds you as you stand there at the top of the mountain, looking around. You find yourself blinded as you stumble forward. And as you do so, you trip over, falling down onto the slab beneath you, grazing your hands as you fall forward. And more blood seeps out into the circles that surround these words. But as your vision comes to, you start to hear above you screams. And as you look up, looking towards the clouds, you see images descending, silhouettes in an almost perfect circle in the sky. And as it descends, and the clouds slowly move to either side, and your vision slowly comes to, you see that this silhouette, this circle, it is what looks to be a giant silver snake eating itself, its red eyes gleaming through the dark clouds above. It is almost the size of the horizon itself, wrapping around the skies above you. And all around this creature, you see shapes flying around its scaled surface, winged creatures of bone and marrow. And in the center of the circle, 3 larger than the rest, silhouettes similar to those you have seen before, in the depths of Baldur's Gate. Chomog, the ravenous Duchess, Aug Malak, the many-armed mortician, and Tiganyaka, the gaggling Duke, and each lightning flash illuminates them as they fly high above you, a whirlpool of clouds gathering in their center. And then in the distance, you hear a rumble. And a bright shaft of light flies from the skies from one of the nearby mountain peaks, piercing the clouds above. And then another sound, and another column of light flies into the inky blackness above from another mountain in the distance. And suddenly, you feel the ground beneath your feet begin to shake. And looking down at the stone circle you stand upon, you see that it is beginning to splinter and crack. Can you make a dexterity saving throw for me, please?
Christ. That will be... An 8.
As you look down, you move, and it's slightly too late as the ground just explodes from beneath you, and you fly to one side, almost rolling off the side of the mountain. Can you make another dexterity save for me, please, as you reach out, scrabbling?
Dirty 20.
You manage to grab into the ground, your fingernails breaking as you just slam them into the ground, and keeping yourself from falling over the edge, you watch as from the ground beneath the slab that stood there previously, a bright column of blinding light shoots up from where you once stood. And as you watch on, hanging from the side of the mountain, you see these 3 distinct pillars of luminescence standing against the darkness of the horizon in a perfect triangle, like a heavenly trident in the night. And as they do so, from the depths of the earth, down, 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 beneath where the mountains finish and where mist covers the ground beneath, you see something move. something shifting in the shadows beneath the mountains. And suddenly, a great hand thrusts upwards, made of shadow and smoke, larger than the mountains around it. And crashing against the creatures that fly above, you see as these bone creatures swarm down in a whirlwind of marrow and ivory, and are quickly battered aside as from the shadows beneath the mountain, an other hand comes up, these two mighty arms crashing down upon the peaks of the mountains around. Hands that could crush cities and tear apart continents reach and grab a hold of the mountains and pull, and as they do so, accompanied by the cries and screams of the creatures above, two giant horns emerge from below, thrusting into the skies and piercing the mighty snake above. And it screams, and as it does so, its mouth lets go of its tail and falls down to the earth below, and you see the mountains exploding beneath its weight, and the horns continue to rise, and you see that burning beneath them are two flaming eyes, as the arms, these mighty biceps, push this giant torso out of the ground. And as this figure gets higher, the head turns, its horns wreathed in shadow and smoke, and it turns to look at you, its burning eyes boring into your soul. And as everything goes black, you hear a voice. Surely you realize by now, child, all roads lead back to me. My daughter. And you wake. And sunlight streams through the window, and you look around and you see that Terra and Dalafar are sleeping peacefully. And you can hear the sound of the street outside, the hustle and bustle, and you can hear that in the tavern just outside your room door, people having breakfast. Food is being served, and all is remarkably normal.
Can I say that when I wake, rather than it being like peacefully, I kind of wake gasping as though I'm trying to catch my breath.
Okay. I will say, given passive perceptions, as you do so, Terra, you just stir a little bit, and looking over, you see Oriana bolt upright, and you see that the bedsheet is damp and sodden with what you can only assume is sweat. And you can see that beads just hang on Oriana's forehead.
Sorry, Captain, did you say something? You're mute.
That's embarrassing. I just said bad dream.
No, why?
Absolutely no reason.
So was it just Terra who awoke, or was it
Just Terra? You had a rough night of it. You are out.
I mean, yeah. I had a dream, yeah.
Okay. You okay now?
Yeah. Maybe we can talk about it when we're all a bit more awake.
Okay.
I immediately leave the room because I'm embarrassed.
So Oriana very quickly stands and heads on out, leaving you and Dalafar alone in the room. And as the door slams behind Oriana, Dalafar, you just begin to wake, and you too hear the sounds of the city outside and the sounds of the Fallen Tower Tavern in the adjacent room.
Can I just say, I didn't want to react to, I want to keep the drama of the moment, but I'm very happy with this development. Ever since you had the first, I think, vision, and there was the horn figure in the distance, I was like, I really hope that's her dad. And it wasn't. Like, I don't even think, like, you made it obvious. I think I'm just very unsteady of a giant monster dad.
I know, it's so weird, because, like, when you were doing that whole vision there, like, when you were talking about the everything, I was like, oh my god, maybe no, maybe no, and then you said that, and I was like, what? Yeah.
Also, we shall henceforth be referring to him as Horn Daddy.
Daddy.
It's canon.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yes.
sorry, Ed.
No, that's okay.
Yes.
That's absolutely fine. So, Dalifar and Terry, you are left alone in the room together.
Is it breakfast time?
It's the morning, which is a yes in my book.
I think I will get up and like open up the window and just sort of start rising.
It's a nice cool breeze that comes in as the winter air just drifts on through. It is very pleasant. The Fallen Tower is a lot of things, but it is very, very warm, and there is something to be said for how relaxing the breeze from outside feels.
And Galfa just gets up and immediately stretches, trying to see if there's any knots or like achiness from the day before.
You're okay. Like, you're still a bit bruised, but you know, you've seen worse, and you will almost assuredly see worse again. But for now, you're okay.
I'll just look over him and go, I've seen worse. Are you still bleeding?
Galfa just smiles and sort of checks to make sure that I'm still not bleeding. No, I don't think so.
Like, you'd know because your bed would be an absolute state.
Yeah, you both, like, Oriana woke up in a wet bed because of her sweat.
Galfa woke up because he's bleeding to death.
Tara,
There's dust all over Tara's.
No, that rest did me some good.
Good. Well, shall we head down?
Yeah, I think everyone else is downstairs burning, hopefully.
Speaking of, Scarlett and Zini, are you doing anything before you head to have your very, very lovely and rustic breakfast?
Don't think so.
Okay. Scarlett?
Let's just eager for some nicely done food.
Okay. So as you all head down to see that Oriana has already secured you all a table, Tara, as you exit the room and move into the large circular tavern, you see Turnip stood behind the bar, and she just waves in your direction and just beckons you over.
Okay, I'll go straight over.
Hello, this arrived for you this morning, my dear. At least I think it's for you. Horseshoe.
That's the one.
There we go.
Thank you very much.
Not a problem. And she slides an envelope across, and you see that drawn on the front of it, in fairly stained ink, is a horseshoe.
I'll just, like, sit at the bar and read it before I head back.
So you open it up, and inside you read the following. Dear Tara, it's good to hear from you. Sounds like you've been keeping busy. I found your friend, Gatus Filcham. He's definitely a character. Honestly, he seemed quite touched that you'd all recommended him as a contact. But he says he hopes there are no hard feelings about the gold. I don't know what that means, but look, I don't know if I trust him, but for what it's worth, he's no fan of the Skinners. That's enough for now. As for your question about Shackley Skinner, I never killed him. I would know it. I tracked him down to the undercellar. I found where he was hiding out, and our people attacked. But even though I saw him run, and Terra, I was this close. My blade never came near him. Instead, the wrong person died, and... well, you know the rest. Now I have to look over my shoulder for Aurora Candlewick's enforcers. But he isn't dead. At least not by my hand. I don't know if that eases your mind or not. Either way, come to Warsteep when you can. Gatus is currently holed up in an old ink and paper shop in South Ward called the Broken Quill. You'll find us there. In the meantime, I'll write to Joanne about everything you told me. Just come when you can. I know you have other matters to deal with. They'll pay for what they did to Terra. We're so close. Your friend, Will.
So I'll fold it back up and walk over to the table and just plop it on to the table.
So as you all sit there, food is brought out, and it will put you back. Let me just bring out my document. My internet's being very slow. So that will put you back 3 silver each for breakfast as you sit there. And what are you all talking about? What are you all doing? What are the plans for the coming day?
This letter came from Will, if anyone wants to read it, and I'll just gesture at it. Nope, I'll just hold on to that.
Well, no, we
No.
didn't care for Will. He's fine, I guess.
Well, I'd say, are you sure?
Yeah, it's useful information.
Okay, then I offer my hand to sort of take the letter and read it.
So you see the information, and you see the name Gatus Filcham, a name that you haven't heard in quite a while, but Will appears to be staying with him, and they appear to be planning retribution against the Skinner crime family.
When I read Gates' name, I just sort of do it a bit. And then after finishing reading it, I hand it back to Terra.
Nice. And then I'll put it away.
Okay.
Can I have a digital copy of that, please?
You can, absolutely.
So it seems that Will's all right for now. He's with Gatus. And, well, we'll see what develops with the Skinner family.
Yeah.
I was sort of giving that information to everybody who didn't read the letter as well, just so everyone was on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
Any other news? And I'll
Get out your agenda.
So what's happening with you? Are you?
Wow.
Here's the PowerPoint presentation.
I would love that. Oriana would hate that. I would love that. I glare at Terra, despite having said that I would talk about it. Oriana doesn't like being put on the spot. And I'll say, yeah, I had another one of those dreams. There were the stairs. I went up to the stairs, and when I got to the top, there some stuff happened, and I saw and they're gonna have to remind me what their names all are because I can't remember off the top of my head. But there's like, you know, Leggy McLegface, and
No,
that is exactly what Ori says.
I know, that's literally like, she probably would just be like, you know, there's that leg guy, and
Leggy
you know,
McLegface, the Devourer of Souls.
Bone
Ken.
Lady,
Yeah.
and I can't remember what the third one was now.
Would you like to know the names again?
Yeah, go for it. Oriana wouldn't say the names, but
No.
yeah.
So Chomog, the Ravenous Duchess, Algmalak, the Many-Armed Mortician, and Tiganyika, the Gaggling Duke. The 3 Bone Devils of the Bone Cadre.
All right, I'll just say, you know, the 3 bone people of the bone thing. You know, all that stuff. They were there. And the big horned giant guy was there. I don't know what it all means, but, you know, I dreamt about it, and can I, like, just glance down briefly at my bandages? Do I see anything, like, amiss?
Make a perception check.
That's a 17.
You glance down, looking under the table, and at first, looks like all is in order, but as you are about to look back up, you see that just on your right wrist, there are a couple of dots of red, just underneath the bandages.
And as I glance back up from the bandages, I don't know, I'm not saying it's gonna happen. I'm not saying that I'm a prophet, but if any of us was. But I don't know, it feels like maybe it could be important. Maybe I should share it with you guys. So, yeah, whatever.
What do you want to do about it?
I don't know. I don't know what it means. I just feel like there's a reason that I am having these dreams a lot. And
Did any of your visions speak or say anything? Or was it just a lot of noise and...
there was that, you know, that bit that Terra translated. That's the bit that Terra translated, isn't it? The kind of like poemy bit.
So the poem you knew, because it was written in Infernal.
Or is that?
Yeah.
Oh, but haven't we heard that bit before?
You had, yes, a couple of times.
Where was it that we heard it?
I think it's just you that's heard it, Diani. I think
Oh, is
it's
it?
just you've read it in the vision before.
Yeah.
We
Oh.
went to like, you know, we didn't go to that poetry night. If actually,
You know, that poetry night, the
Poetry.
open mic night
Hello,
we all
I'm
went
Bill
to.
Quiverpike. This is my new original.
How disturbing would that be if you'd heard it in the vision and then it's said at a poetry night? You're just like,
actually, that would be like a really good like way to like put in an element of horror. Like you go to a poetry night and then suddenly it all goes black and then they're like possessed and say creepy.
yeah, Ed, why didn't you do that?
Yeah.
You didn't go to the poetry night.
We did. Ed put all these like, here's a poster for the
Railroad
poetry
us.
night.
Railroad us to the poetry night.
You know, because we ruined his plans. He had to put it in a dream instead. He's like really pissed off with
I
it.
swear to
Yeah,
God,
that's
I wrote so much bad poetry for that poetry night.
I don't want to railroad us. Ed. You
Patreon
just have
exclusive.
to,
Yeah.
like, send a dog.
Yeah.
in the direction.
I mean, I suppose the good news is poetry nights can happen in any city.
This is very true.
Okay, in that case, it's not the poem that Tara translated. There's a verse that I've heard a couple of times. To be honest, it doesn't really make that much sense to me. I don't really know what it's telling me. No. Nothing else.
Do you remember this verse?
Ed, can you send me the verse, please?
I've put it in the Discord.
Holy schniz! Alright, didn't even swear. Have you? Oh, in the Discord. Jeez.
Sometimes poetry is more about creating a mood than conveying an idea. What would you say the mood of the poem was?
Or Scarlett thinks that.
I just my eyes widen slightly and I kind of look down definitely dark. Something about trapped souls, and something about a trident. Blood, bone. I don't really know what it means, but it doesn't sound welcoming. It sounds like the words of something that wants to consume everything.
Does any of that ring any bells, Ed, like the trident or anything? I don't think it will, but...
Make a religion check for me.
16.
The thing she's saying, I mean, you have heard in your travels and in Voldhaven as well, it is an incredibly open community religiously, and there are, as a result, a lot of stories and a lot of faiths that are shared. And you have heard stories of creation myths and destruction myths and recycling is the wrong word, but cyclical myths as well, with beginnings and endings, and this doesn't sound like any that you have heard before. No.
Was just a dream. I'm sure that nothing is actually going to devour everything.
As somebody who had dreams that weren't just dreams, just putting it out there, it's possible that they might be more real than we would hope.
All right. I feel like there is something to these dreams. There are times when things happen in the dreams, and when I wake up, they aren't just imagined.
So, do flowers bloom around you? Because that happened to me once.
If only it were that nice. And I'll just hold up my bandage with the blood spatter on them, and assume that everyone will notice the blood spatters.
You point it out, and yes, all of you sat around the table see that against the fairly dirty white of the bandages, there just here and there are small red flecks.
Do we know if... Sorry.
Sorry, no, you go first.
I was just going to say, do we know if Oriana, like, changes them for clean ones regularly? Like, could it just be the remnants of the fight?
Make a medicine check for me.
I think on that note, Scarlett sort of nods, but doesn't particularly look convinced. Being a little wizard, she's like the edgy atheist of the group. Yeah.
I rolled a 21.
21. Looking at it, you can tell that the blood is coming up from beneath.
Oh, okay. That is very strange.
With all of our experiences and this coming up now, especially with the Bone Padra, because we've dealt with aspects of them when we were in where were we? Sorry, not Waterdeep.
Baldur's Gate.
Oh.
Baldur's Gate. Thank you. I was thinking of something. No, not even close. Having dealt with them in Baldur's Gate, and something Eric said about building a door, I can't help but perhaps these are in some way connected. Because in the time that we were in Baldur's Gate, we sort of found that they could travel in the mirrors. And it's not inconceivable to think that the doorway could either allow someone to travel from place to place, or in fact from an entirely different place, or perhaps not entirely some place we've ever been before.
Scarlett, did Lord Harwood ever tell you if he worshipped anyone or anything?
No. I'm not exactly know what to think of the implication that I might have worked for somebody that dealt with that bone carter a lot, but, you know, he's a perfectly proper gentleman. Was he a warlock who had made pact with a being from another world for magical power? Yes, but I don't think that makes him a bad person per se.
Sorry,
What?
Just circle back to what?
Oh, well, you know, there are different types of magic.
Yes.
Yeah, so I learnt my magic by finding books. Some people have magic that's innate. Some people worship gods or serve gods and get power that way. Whereas some will make deals, like a business deal perhaps. I'll do something for you, you give me this magical power, etc., etc.
So who did he make the deal with?
I mean, we didn't really discuss it, to be honest. I mean, we worked together closely, but I have to say, a lot of our discussions were, you know, food-based. Sometimes he would talk about the politics of the city, but to be honest, my mind is fairly good at remembering certain things, and you know, if they're unimportant, it sort of gets tucked away for later.
So the fact that he has bonded himself to some kind of entity and is building a doorway is not important.
I mean, that seems a little unfair. I didn't know that he was building any sort of doorway.
Well, but when we heard about it yesterday,
Well, yes,
You
we're all
didn't-
quite tired.
maybe
And wished to sleep. I thought breakfast would be the perfect time to get things out in the open.
Okay. Was there? You remember the decor inside when you spent time with him? And I slowly put a hand softly on Dini's shoulder just to sort of.
her tongue
I
is
understand.
just sliding across her teeth.
Yeah, I sort of put a hand just so it's okay. So the decor inside Lord Harwood's estate where you were there any interesting books?
Well, I mean, he had a large library, but again, I mostly used the cooking section.
Were there any creepy bone skeleton things?
No, I rather think I would have noticed that.
Okay.
Would you?
Again, I just tap Zini on the shoulder. Just,
Mirrors?
I mean, yes, but no more than an ordinary
Missing
abode.
people?
I mean, Lord Harwood was a man of business, and some of those businesses were very, what's the word? I would say, not beneficial exactly, but, sort of charitable, helping out the local populace, orphanages. But, some of them would be, a little perhaps less than legal, I suppose, one would say. So I suppose people might have gone missing. But look, it's quite difficult perhaps for you to understand, but I wasn't always the, independent, strong-willed, confident cook that you sort of see before you. When I came to Neverwinter, I knew nothing about the world, I barely understood the price of money. The first place I worked at didn't even pay me because I didn't understand that was a thing. It was really only when Lord Harwood found me, took me in, trained me, taught me about the world. So, he was my introduction, I suppose, into how city life worked and how business worked and how, lords and the upper classes would act. So, everything he told me seemed very normal. It's perhaps after I left that I learned that some of that was a little less than normal, but I don't think anybody should hold it against me. It's all a learning experience. So, yes. Did that answer your question?
No one's holding anything against you, Scarlett. We're just curious about Lord Harwood.
But I'm certainly not defensive. I don't know what you're talking about.
So, do you think you can introduce us to Lord Harwood?
Well, here's the other thing, which... Have I purposely kept this a secret? Yes. But for slightly good reason. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago, Ed, when I received the invitation?
I believe it was 2 days ago.
So 2 days ago, I may have received an invitation from him to attend a dinner party.
Okay.
Which we could do. I suppose. Is it party in 3 days, Ed?
It is, yes.
Yes. It's in 3 days. I mean, that didn't strike me as particularly out in the open. He was always a gentleman with, good eyes and ears everywhere, and I suppose that if I completely wished to stay off the radar, I perhaps could have done a better job. But the thing is, you heard what our gnome friend said. He does have magic, and for those that do not do as he says, sometimes he would use that magic to make sure that they did do what he said. Which, he's rather charismatic. Half the time he wouldn't have to use it anyway, and certainly, our goals aligned enough that he never had to use it on me. But when it got to the place when I was unhappy with my job, I knew it was easier to leave quickly and leave a note rather than, kick up a fuss, as it were. So I am not quite sure if it is the best idea to attend a dinner party, but he can be mercurial. Perhaps he would just like to see me again. Perhaps he would like to rub my face in a replacement. Or perhaps he's merely curious, or perhaps he does have something nefarious in mind. I couldn't say.
Well, we're not going to make you do anything you don't want to do. It was more a point of a question of how we go about getting information. So,
Yes, I mean that's... So the reason I didn't tell you is that, well, I have enjoyed travelling with you all, but let's be honest, the people that have not been aligned with the same goals as us, there's a tendency for things to get a bit murdery. And the thing is, perhaps Maxim is not the most legal of men, but he did help me a lot to become the person I am today. And yes, I wouldn't want to work for him again, especially as it seems he's gotten a little more forceful with his magic usage, but I also wouldn't like him to be dead, if that makes sense. I very much would like to avoid any sort of stabbing or Oriana tearing him in as a giant, or any of those sort of, you know.
I mean, you're the one who would make her a giant.
I mean, that's true, I suppose. But, I mean, Oriana's very strong. I haven't seen her tear somebody apart at her regular size, but I would not put it past her.
okay. Well, if you don't want to, if you don't want to sort of find out anything about Lord Harwood and what he's up to, I'll leave it completely up to you.
To be honest, I don't know if you have a choice, in that he seems to be involved in this tank business, which, you know, appears to be connected to the First Church, which appears to be what we're looking into. Also, I'm sure at one point, is Ostafar Gay staying at Harwood House? When did we find this out? I feel like that's a thing, and I've forgotten when.
No, he's staying at an inn, isn't he?
He is.
Oh, he
yes.
is.
But there is another individual staying at Harwood House. Porteous Brecht.
Oh, Porteous Brecht, yeah.
Porteous.
Those two guys, yes. I forgot when we found that out.
Oh, wait. How many people met Porteous Brecht?
I mean, this was pre-filming, but you all sort of came into vague contact with him. Zini knows Porteous Brecht fairly intimately, and Terra was arrested by Porteous Brecht's Knights of the Birch. And that is how you all met. Very chaotically.
Yeah, because I don't remember that Gallifrey met him or Oriana. We're in the vicinity, but we don't meet him. No, not even Scarlett was in the stockade.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Found out I was a shifter.
so Porteous Brecht would have potentially seen you. I'm guessing. I'm not too sure. So for definite, myself and Ori are the only ones he hasn't met for, you know, with 100% certainty. When I met Porteous Brecht, it turned out to be a mist, so it wasn't Porteous Brecht.
It's very complex.
I can hear the furious scribbling from all of our viewers just going, what the hell? Yes,
Leaving any episodes to reference.
Yeah.
Well, I won't be going to meet Lord Harwood if these are the conditions.
Well, but in terms of his magical control of us, we've all got the mind shielding rings, haven't we? So
To be able to read our minds, yes.
yeah, but it helps against like invading our minds as well, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So you can't control us with magic with those.
My concern is perhaps twofold in that, first, Scarlett knows this person, and it's not just another atypical, just bad person. This is the person that brought Scarlett up in a way, and from the sound of it, he was someone she was close to. And secondly, if Scarlett learned her magic under his care, and we all know how powerful Scarlett is, this raises the question of Lord Harwood as a very dangerous threat as well. Not only magically, but also societally. He's got status. So
he's also very rich. I thought I could pop that there.
So not only are we going up someone who has the infrastructure to have a lot of protection, both perhaps magically and manpower, human power, should I say? I don't know. Some men are weak as well, but also the fact that if we mess this up, should we go forward with anything we plan, there could be very heavy repercussions, much heavier than I think perhaps what we faced before.
Oh yeah, because moving against the Idlewinds was a picnic.
No, I'm thinking more that his involvement in perhaps what's to come with his connection to what's going to happen in Kamenstadt. And God knows what else he's doing with that door.
So we just do nothing?
Not what I was saying, just some things to think about.
As a small counterpoint, he does know me well, and he does know that I find it very difficult to refuse an invitation to a dinner party. I mean, we haven't been to one in all this time. So,
well, because we kind of moved against the Idlewinds before they could hold theirs, but...
Yes, which, I don't hold it against you all, but it'd been nice to wait a few days.
Scarlett, I'm struggling here. You're asking us not to hold anything against you, but then you mentioned the fact that we didn't get to go to a party because we needed to arrest some naughty people. You're maybe holding that against us, because you may say you're not, but I feel like you are.
No, it's on a similar level, I would say.
Okay, so what are we going to do? Because I think it's worth looking into Lord Harwood, as much as I understand that he is a part of your upbringing, Scarlett. But
I'm not saying that you can't carefully look into what he's doing, as I would not like to see those tanks overrun everything, or have that phone card robot making everybody worship them and becoming the dominant religion. No thank you. But just if things get to the worst point, I would very much prefer it if that he was not murdered horribly, as some of the people have been. And I would say the same if he was here. I would like, please don't murder my friends. I don't know how much he would listen, but probably a little bit, but yes.
I propose that you attend this party and that you take a +1, one of us, and while you're there you find out something about this door.
I can give it my best shot. I mean, he did tell me a lot about his business plans. But I just did not have the best memory for retaining them, as smuggling, imports. It does not particularly interest me. But I could try and pay better attention this time. It just depends who would wish to accompany me, I suppose.
Well, I dare say we're all happy to go, but it's up to you.
It's a very hard decision.
This is like in Dragon Age when you have to choose which party members to take in.
Oh my god, I know!
Well, You do have 3 days
Yes.
to make the decision, so there is also that.
So we all have time to prepare a presentation. We should be taken.
A parchment presentation.
A parchment presentation.
Power parchment.
We have 3 days, and of course, formal wear would be required.
I volunteer to not go.
Excellent.
I will go and do my own thing.
I'm ruling myself out as well.
I glare at Dalafar.
I just glare back at Ori.
Let me try and help with this choice. So, Scarlett, you'll be there to speak with your previous employer and gain information in that way. Perhaps we should have the other person go and search out the information.
The two people who were the least sneakiest.
Only if we're wearing armor.
Yes, I will take my armor off.
Well, right now.
Well, I'm assuming I have some kind of undergarments underneath my armor anyway.
I'm gonna show how willing I am, right?
I'm gonna do it.
Women in fantasy clearly are naked underneath their armor.
Yeah.
Could you imagine the chafing?
Oh.
Now,
I mean,
yeah.
for anybody naked under heavy armor of any
Of
kind.
course, the men aren't naked. You know.
No, we have boob armor,
Yeah.
which you know conveniently deflects the sword towards the chest.
It's,
Exactly what you need.
it's funny because I was just listening to someone who's experienced in sword fighting in armor explain why all of those are terrible ideas. So yeah, no. So Dalfa just stands up and say, well, I think after eating, and say, well, you have a few days, and whomever you're comfortable with to take it, I'm more than happy to go, but if you choose someone else, so be it, but as long as both of you come back. And in the
I am
meantime,
also happy to go. And Scarlett, you take your time. No one's going to be mad if you don't pick them.
I just breathe out heavily, looking at Ori.
I'm like, thank you both. It does mean a lot. I will have a think about the best way. It's been a while since I've been in the house and spoken with him. So yeah.
This is all assuming you're allowed a guest.
The invitation explicitly mentioned being able to bring my friends
So you can take both of them.
if they would be amenable to it. Yeah.
Do I hear Ori say that?
Yeah.
Make a perception check.
Oh, this is good.
Me
That
and
is-
Dean are going to go out and get in a fight.
that is
just to really
18.
flip the tropes.
Yeah, you hear Oriana's barely contained excitement. It's very uncharacteristic, but it's palpable.
Yes, I'll be happy to go with you and Ori. Because as I say, because I turn to Ori in a very sort of plain-faced manner, say, because we'll both be on very good behavior, won't we?
Yeah, best.
Dalfa lets out another big sigh.
Juliet meow.
In that case, while you think about it, I'm going to see Phileas. Does everyone have what they need from him so that I can take that to him?
Yeah, I thought we'd. Well, I don't know whether he needs my bow to work on it yet, but
I'll just come with you.
Okay.
Did you read my item thing, Ed? Because I didn't know if it would make sense.
I did, and I
Yeah.
love it so much.
Does it make sense that he would make it though? Because I'm like, I don't actually know.
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Even if he didn't, I would will it into being. Yes.
Awesome.
I legit cannot remember what my item was.
Well, it's okay. I'll give you each an opportunity to explain it when Dalifar goes and takes the list.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so you are sat around the table. What are you all doing with the day?
Scarlett, can I just ask a quick thing? The letter, the invitation, does it specify anything about us? Or does it just say you can bring any friends or your friends, or what's the exact wording?
The exact wording is your friends. So, like I said, he deals a lot in information, finding it, keeping it, passing it on to others. So it would not surprise me if there was somebody that has passed the message on that I'm here and are accompanied by people.
Great.
I think as I hear that, involuntarily Dalifar just says damn and his breath.
I mean, I didn't, I hoped that we would go into Neverwinter, I could show you the lovely sights, you could find some stuff about the first church, and then we would be on our way. I didn't exactly anticipate.
When has that ever happened to us?
I mean, we were certainly worth a break. We were due a nice break, I thought. Plus, I mean, it was a few years ago. I thought perhaps, is it galling to be replaced? Yes, but if you'd replaced me and forgotten about me, then nothing.
Yes, a man who gets what he wants as much as Lord Harwood does and seems to remember important political information would just forget about his old chef who he basically raised.
I put a hand on Zini's shoulder again, just sort of.
I mean, perhaps. Anyway, let's go see this alchemist gentleman.
Let's go when you're ready.
Hey. So, you head off out of the Fallen Tower Tavern and into the city as you continue on until eventually you find yourself at the abode of Phileas Fleckelmeister. And as you enter, you see that he is currently sat behind his desk, and you see that laid out in front of him there are two long mechanical legs, and off to one side you see the fairly happy torso of Gear, who looks up and nods at all of you, and Phileas looks up as well, and hey, good to see you all again. You have that list?
Yes, as we've put our heads together, and I suppose I take out the separate lists that people gave me and hand them over.
All right, let me have a look at this. So, as he looks through the list, I'm just going to go in the order of how I see you. Zini, what have you asked for?
So, I have essentially asked for an abjuration bow, which has an action I can charge up to fire an arrow, which essentially would, if it hit, stop a magical effect. So it's essentially dispel magic, but in an arrow.
Okay. Sorry, you go?
No, you go ahead.
So he looks at this and, all right, I can probably do something to that effect. You're gonna need your bow over the next couple of days.
Hopefully not.
All right. Should take me 2 to 3 days approximately, so I can have that ready for you by 13th, 14th.
Works for me.
All right, good. I'll take that bow of yours. Oh, that is nice craftsmanship. Who made this?
I don't remember.
Well, I will. I'll take good care of it. And Billy, what did you ask for?
I think I'm going to be last.
The last draft.
This is the one that's been hyped up the most, and I'm so excited.
I mean, it's only because I make such spelling mistakes and just trying to make myself a little bit clear. So basically, I have asked for twin braces, and the twin braces are, I'll describe them, and I've requested some dwarven inscription of decoration and dwarven deities, just to sort of as an honor to my lineage. And I've asked for them to be made, and I'll sort of ask for them to function in such a way that in the right hand, as because in my in Galafar's heritage, well, training of being a blacksmith and how that has transformed the dwarven way of living, and asked for it to be called Moradin's hammer. Moradin, just as a quick history lesson, because I had to do all this research as well.
And god damn if I'm not going to share it with everyone.
Just highlight, I'm not going to go too much into detail. Moradin was the lawful good god of the dwarves and the chief deity in their pantheon. And the other bracer is called Helia's Mercy. And what Moradin's bracer will do is allow me to effectively catapult an object I am holding in my hand up to, I think it's about 8 pounds. So it's a knockoff version of the spell catapult, but also be able to recall that very object back to my hand safely obviously in a straight manner. And it doesn't harm me or a creature within 5 feet of me, but anybody else is basically getting hit by the spell catapult. And Helia's Mercy, which is the other bracer, is effectively it's an abjuration kind of magic bracer, and basically says it emits energy, radiates energy within a 30-foot radius, and that helps my comrades. I think we'll tease it there and leave it there. It helps my comrades, and especially if you have fallen, it helps you to stabilize.
So he looks at this and sort of scratches his head a little bit and pushes the legs to one side, and you see Gear just, what about, okay, as he just sort of paws over the list. And all right, okay, well this bracer of protection, that's easy enough, but this one, the recalling one, that's I'm gonna need some more components for that. You familiar with something called red metal?
Am I familiar with something called red metal?
Make a stone cunning check for me.
So pull up my stats. Oh, that is terrible. Stone cunning. I mean, I rolled a 5, so that's going to be absolutely terrible. I think it's some 10.
So, you know that it is a very malleable metal that is infused with fire, but also vaguely magical properties, and there are usually sort of elements of gemstone within it. But as you sort of nod, Phileas just, all right, well, it's rare, but if you can find it near certain volcanic hollows further up the coast, so if you get me some of that, I can finish this up for you, no problem. The other bracer, like I say, I can do. Now let's see. And Scarlett, what are you asking for?
So, have you heard of the very famous gnome chef, G. Ogre Forgeman?
Can't say that I have, no.
Well, you see, he's very fond of grilling. And he has a very special grill. I'm laughing.
I literally just got it.
I love Scarlett so much.
Yeah, he's a very famous fighter turned chef, and he's a gnome. And the thing is, there was a great plan to mass produce these grills. It was going to be part subsidized by Bhutan Bashir, but, you know, for completely unexplained reasons that surely have nothing to do with that man's terrible business sense, the plan completely fell through. So I was wondering perhaps if you could make me a replica of one of these grills. They have an inbuilt prestidigitation spell for a very easy clean. They can grill any item to perfection in less than 10 minutes, as long as it is less than 3 inches thick and can physically fit inside the grill. And, you know, perhaps if I turned it to the highest setting and directed it toward the target, it could cast Ivaganar's Scorcher 3 times a day. And
At this, Phileas just like raises an eyebrow very pointedly and alright, okay.
I mean, sometimes you have to do some very intense grilling. You know, and fat from the grill, I'm sure, could be used to subsidize fire spells 3 times a day to add a bit of extra damage. Perhaps 1d4, but not to said Scorcher spell. It would have to be to a different fire spell. And definitely not Bhutan approved, obviously.
Alright, well, culinary stuff isn't really in my wheelhouse, but you've outlined it all terrifyingly clearly here, so, yeah, no, I'll give it a go. Right, okay. And Ariana, what is it that you would like?
I'd like it's called a spirit blade. I don't know whether it's something that you can put on my current weapon or whether you just need to make a great sword specifically for it. But and I'll just talk you through what it does out of character.
Okay.
So it allows me to spend an action to deal 66 radiant damage to all creatures that I designate within a 30-foot radius centered on me, so area of attack.
Okay.
Creatures must succeed a Dex saving throw of 16 or above. If they succeed, they only take half damage. If they fail, they take full damage.
Okay.
I can only use it once a day, and well, I can't use it again until I complete a long rest, because I can only use it once. And then due to exhaustion, my aura of protection, which is what grants anyone within 10 feet a +6 to saving throws, is suppressed until I've had a long rest. And then also along the blade, I would like a rune belonging to my chosen god, Azil, which grants a +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls.
Okay. So he looks at that and okay. You thinking you're gonna find yourself up against large groups, or you know what? None of my business. It's fine. It's fine. And you, the Earth Lady at the back.
I just wanted some braces.
Balafar raises an eyebrow.
Just some normal braces. I didn't realize everyone was getting fancy stuff, so that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything that can just help me move a bit faster or whatever.
Yeah, sure. I mean, after all of the raw materials that you brought me, I'm happy to do anything that you like. But I'll try my best to spruce it up a little bit for you. That's great. Like I say, that'll all be ready for you in 3 days or so. Yeah, come back and we'll have those items for you. Might not be exactly as you specified. It's not quite an exact thing. It's more an art than, but I'll try my best.
Thanks.
No problem. Anything else at all, or are we good here?
I think we're good for now.
All right. Well, pleasure doing business with you all. I'll be seeing you.
Thanks for this.
And as you leave, and he begins to pore over the list, and you hear him muttering to himself various ideas as he thinks about how he might bring these items to life and how I will also make sure that they're not too wild and out of control. You head out into the streets. Snow falls about you, and you find yourself with 3 days ahead of you. 3 days before a dinner party, 3 days before you can potentially meet this elusive Maxim Harwood. What would you like to do?
Oh, just a small note. Score, whatever. The score just felt. On my notes, I only put once per day, not 3 times a day. The fat thing, 3 times a day.
Okay, cool.
So hopefully, not gonna burn everyone to death. Maybe. Anyway, actual gameplay. Clothes shopping.
Yes, clothes shopping! Woo! Let's go get drunk and go buy clothes. Let's fucking do it.
That went from getting clothes to absolutely getting
Let's
really
get
drunk.
wasted.
See,
Wasted. Let's get white girl wasted.
Is it going to be like a wedding dress trial where everyone just like sits there and then one person comes out and everyone's like champagne?
Almost 100%.
I mean, I was literally thinking, Galapagos was probably thinking that we already got some like fancy clothes earlier, so why am I going to buy some new ones?
We need new fancy clothes. New fancy clothes.
Galapagos doesn't work that way.
Are those even fancy enough, Ed? Would the clothes we got before be fancy enough?
I will leave that entirely up to you,
I mean,
Jess.
Scarlett doesn't think it is. Whether or not she's correct is a different matter.
Lovely. So, as you head off to make your preparations for the party to come, we are going to end this week's episode there. And next week, we'll pick up with preparations for the party and our final episode of the season. But in the meantime, I've never seen Oriana so excited for anything, so I'm very excited to see how that will manifest next week. But in the meantime, stay safe. We love you as ever. You can check us out on our Patreon. We are Dungeon Manager. You can check us out on Spotify, iTunes, and Podbean. You can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And of course, you can use the codes Dungeon10 and Dungeon20 on Zavi for discounts site-wide and on Dungeons and Dragons clothing. We're very excited to be back again next week, and we will see what the episode brings. But in the meantime, stay safe. We love you, and we will see you very, very soon. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Oh.
Bye, Tonks.